Hey everyone, was that a great bridge conference or what? I think all of the organizers, all of the organizations involved deserve a ton of credit. It's not easy to put together a virtual conference of any kind, let alone one with 12 tracks and keynote speakers and affinity chat rooms. I loved going into those chat rooms, and I had a bunch of really fun, off the cuff conversations with people. So I think just everyone deserves a ton of credit for putting together a great conference under very difficult circumstances. And I know we're all looking forward to getting back together next year. I could feel the energy from people I was talking to, both people that I met for the first time and people I've known for years in this industry that we were just excited to be able to talk face to face over Zoom, but we're all looking forward to getting back together next year in person and even sooner at other shows and other events. But just a fantastic job all around. So kudos to everyone involved in planning the Bridge Conference for a very successful show. That was a great experience. I know I got a lot of value out of all the educational sessions, and I'm sure all of the attendees, other attendees, did as well. As I mentioned yesterday, it was really encouraging for me, and I was really enthusiastic to see all of the sessions dedicated to talking about not just multi-channel fundraising, but putting those channels together, creating an integrated experience. It seems like the industry is coming around. We now have case studies, clients willing to share. That's what's so wonderful about this business, is that people are willing to share to help others, because ultimately we know that's how we grow as an industry. It's how we improve. That's how we catch up and close that gap with the commercial sector that everyone talks about all the time. But now that we're seeing these things being mainlined, whatever you want to call it, integrated fundraising, unsiloed fundraising, you are going to see more adaptation, because putting these topics on stage at something as prominent as the Bridge Conference is how these ideas tend to accelerate. So I'm very excited to see where that goes in the next couple of years. I want to talk real quick today about where do we go from here as an industry if it's now an accepted best practice. If walls are going to start to come down internally inside organizations, people are going to start to work towards shared goals and taking the focus off of who gets credit for the donation, instead focus on how do we create a seamless donor experience to guide them to making that donation. If we're moving in that direction as an industry, which I'm super optimistic that we are, and I think that's great for donors, great for organizations, great for fundraisers alike, where do we go from there as fundraisers to try to facilitate that? And this is one of the things we've really tried to do with Data Strategy Forum. Now, Bridge Conference is an amazing event. There's something there for everyone, with all these different tracks. Data Strategy Forum, obviously a much smaller event, but we've taken a different track and make everything basically a feature session. Put everybody in the same room, bringing you the most important fundraising themes that we think you need to know about, channels, techniques, case studies, but also trying to reinforce that notion that there's a lot of value today in being a generalist as a fundraiser, regardless of what your specialty is, regardless of what your core business is, how you pay your bills, that there's value in knowing a little bit about everything. Now, for one thing, if you're on the vendor side, if you were at last year's Data Strategy Forum, you heard me say that when you tell a client, I don't know, you're giving up your seat at the table. And our goal should always be to keep our seat at the table. And that means having added value and knowledge about other channels that we may not work in directly, or knowing quality people or quality vendors, pointing our clients in the right direction, because those are the types of added value things that everyone values and never forgets when you're able to help point somebody in the right direction. But even from outside of added value, this generalist approach, I believe, makes smart business sense, and it makes smart sense as fundraisers for increasing the value of our individual services. Let me give you a couple examples. My perspective comes heavily from the direct mail side, and I'm aware, of course, I have biases like everyone else, because that's where most of my experience is. But that's why I've leaned very heavily on direct mail fundraisers. Said you need to know what's going on with digital, with social, with text messaging, because these are things that can add value to what you provide as a direct mail fundraiser. And I had some really exciting conversations over the last couple of days about things like video ads, about text messaging, and display ads, which I've kind of come full circle on, and their value in the donor journey, and getting them to ultimately make that contribution, and how these things can be paired with direct mail, which ultimately, if they boost direct mail response rates, it makes direct mail more valuable, right? So for direct mail fundraisers, I strongly encourage everyone to kind of push against this new school, old school divide, and realize that everything is interconnected, and every channel has an ability to boost other channels. By the same token, I do see a lot in the industry, and it's understandable that when you have vendors or companies who specialize in emerging tech or specific channels and may not have a background in direct mail, too often they position themselves as either a replacement for direct mail or an alternative to direct mail for getting younger donors and more hip, and how they organization brands themselves to donors. Now, I've been here for 15 years, and just about all those 15 years, I've heard something was going to replace direct mail. And I know people who've been in the industry for 30 years, and they were being told that there were channels that were going to replace direct mail, that direct mail was dying. So I think we can safely assume direct mail isn't dying, it's evolving. It may be incorporated with other channels. There may be donors who can't be reached through direct mail, but there still are going to be tens of millions of donors who can be reached through direct mail. So what I encourage, as I have conversation with donors who work in emerging tech, or who work in just channels that are outside the realm of direct mail, is to learn about the value of direct mail. It's amazing how often you talk to a fundraiser that doesn't realize what a robust infrastructure already exists for direct mail, that not only does it work, but it's scalable, and you have organizations which are being funded 90% through direct mail, and that's not by flaw, that's by design. And these channels, whether you're talking about things like DRTV or person-to-person television ads with streaming or text messaging, you take your pick. These emerging techs have an ability to add to the value of direct mail. And if these other channel vendors position themselves as a way to add value to direct mail, that increases their value. Again, this works because every channel impacts each other, and if you look at the donor journey case studies, nothing really works on its own anymore. The average consumer requires 20 touch points with a brand before they make a purchasing decision, and I guarantee you that skews even higher as you get younger. As younger consumers are used to multi-touch point experiences, and fundraising is just no different in that regard. So I think we all individually and collectively have so much to learn by adopting a generalist mentality. Doesn't mean we're going to provide every service. Don't get me wrong. I don't think in this environment, with the growth that we're seeing in new channels, that many people or companies are going to provide every service. And I think the ones that try to do that are not necessarily going to do it well. There's just too many specialties to do that. But you still can have knowledge about different areas of the industry, and that will allow you to provide more value to your clients, but also seek collaboration opportunities, which can be profitable for your individual businesses. And that's a theme that I'm going to continue to pursue through my work with Data Strategy Forum, and there's going to be a lot on that front coming up in October, and we can't wait to see a lot of you there for that, as well as my personal content here on LinkedIn and with the Dynamic Nonprofits podcast. A lot more to come about this generalist mindset and how these different channels can support each other and work together to make a more robust industry, to make stronger organizations that are more well-funded, and ultimately increase the amount of good that nonprofit organizations and our industry is able to do in the world. So lots more to come on that front. But in the meantime, just want to say congrats again to everyone involved in planning the Bridge Conference. You really killed it. You did an amazing job. You made us all proud and delivered a lot of value in the process. And I look forward to talking to you all soon and seeing you even sooner than that. Cannot wait to get back to meeting in person and brainstorming and maybe even a happy hour or two along the way. But until then, take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.